I also wanted to give a shout out to Timothy Siregar. He's another YouTuber that's in my Reactors League group, and he does reactions of Game of Thrones as well. I have a link to his channel in the description below. So go check him out and say hello. Say Koricon sent me. And yeah, I think he's got some good stuff over there. So go check it out. Hey everybody! Koricon here, and we're going to be talking about Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 4, Spoils of War. Whoa! What a crazy episode. That was dense, too. And the ending. Dragons! Dragons! We start off with Jaime with his caravan of gold coming out. They're going to go pay the Iron Bank all the gold they owe. And he ends up taking some of it and giving it to Bronn as payment. And my initial thought was, so now you own the Iron Bank everything except for the amount you just gave to Bronn? Are they going to notice? But we end up going over to Cersei and Tycho, and they're talking about strategies, and she's like, I need to expand my armies and my navy, and they're looking over the big map. I really like the way the floor map looks. It looks pretty cool. And she tells Tycho that Qyburn is going over to talk to the Golden Company in Essos to get their support, which is a bunch of mercenaries. And Tycho with the Iron Bank is like, yes, we'll back you up. We'll support you now that you're paid us back, right? And she's like, good, I want them to recover things that belong to me, which means the kingdoms. But the way that she says that, it's all menacing. And then we jump to Littlefinger talking with Bran, and he ends up giving him the Valyrian steel dagger that was meant to kill Bran a long time ago. And he leaves the room, and then Mira comes in, and she's like, basically like, I should probably go now. And he's like, yeah, okay, thanks. She's like, thanks? Like, that's it? All this that I've done for you? My brother died? My gosh. And he was like so emotionless. And she's like, you died in that cave, which is where he became the three-eyed raven. But yeah, I mean, his emotion is just all drained out. It's like he's constantly thinking of something else. Like he's off in another plane of existence, which he kind of is. I mean, he's really seeing almost all of this other stuff at once. So he's probably not all there all the time in present day. He's just, mind is wandering on all kinds of other things. And then Arya arrives at Winterfell. Oh, that was awesome. Plus, there's a funny little back and forth she had with the guards. I like that. It was interesting. It was kind of cute. But she ends up getting back together with Sansa. So they're down in the crypt, kind of crypt, looking at their father's statue. She's like, he doesn't look like that. They should have gotten somebody that knows what his face looked like. Which makes sense. You should have if they're going to carve the statue, right? And Arya tells Sansa about her list and that she was heading to go kill Cersei. And Sansa kind of thinks it's a joke. She's like, ha 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 ha. And Arya is laughing also. Which, no, she's got a list. She's going to go be killing some peoples. She already has. And then they meet up with Bran. So now we got Bran, Sansa, and Arya back together again. The trifecta. It's awesome. Wondering what they're going to do going forward, because you've got the leader in Sansa, you've got the crazy vision seer dude with Bran, and you've got Arya, the badass fighter that's going to go kill everybody on her list. And then Bran ends up giving the Valyrian steel dagger to Arya. She's like, are you sure? He's like, what am I going to do with it, basically? It's worthless to me. And so he gave it to Arya. Now she's got 2 awesome weapons. Nice. Now we're back with Jon and Daenerys, and Jon wants to show Daenerys the cave with the volcanic glass, the dragon glass, before they start mining it. And it looks huge in scale and awesome reflections of everything with the lights that they got going on in there. And then he takes her farther back in and shows her cave carvings from their ancestors. And he's pointing out to her that, the children of the forest, which are her ancestors. The children of the forest had carved all of this stuff into the walls, and they had huge amounts of carvings all over the place. And then he showed her carvings of the White Walkers. He even had blue eyes. And she's like, whoa, and the first men. So you had the children of the forest and the first men, which were enemies back then. And she's saying, so the why are the first men here? The children of the forest fighting the first men? And Jon's like, no, they teamed together to fight them. And she sees the White Walkers, the dead with blue eyes, carved into the wall. And it's kind of like this, oh my gosh, Jon might actually be telling the truth. He's like, yes, see, I'm telling you, they're real. No one will believe me. And so Daenerys is kind of accepting the fact that these White Walkers probably exist. And she says, and you can't beat them without my dragons and men? And he's like, no, I don't think I can. And she goes, well, I will support you. I will support the North if you bend the knee. And he's like, come on. Seriously, I told you why I can't do that. Why aren't you listening to me? They're not going to accept that. And but it looks like it might be setting up a marriage, because they're kind of falling for each other. And if he marries Daenerys, then it's not like he had to bend a knee and surrender kind of to Daenerys' rule. He would be kind of a part of it. And then the people in the North would accept that. I mean, they would accept a marriage because he basically kind of becomes king. She would be the ruler. I think she would want the control. Jon doesn't really want to be a leader. He just keeps getting thrust into it. So I think even if they do get married, Daenerys would be the one that had the Iron Throne. She would be the one ruling. But the North would accept the fact that they're a part of the kingdom now because their king is the king, Daenerys' husband. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to end up getting married. Maybe if it's not for love, at least it might be to join forces. And then it becomes love later. They come out of the cave and Daenerys is met by Tyrion. And he tells her about Casterly Rock. And she's like, doesn't know what to do, basically, and asks Jon for advice. Which I found interesting because it means that she's starting to trust him. That she values his input. Getting closer to the marriage part, maybe. And she wants to basically take the dragons and go fight. But Jon points out, says, if you use the dragons to burn down towns, you're going to lose favor with the people. Which is the same thing that she had said earlier in like the first episode, that she's like, I can't use my dragons or go, and I don't want to be burning the towns. I want the people to want me as their queen. And he basically just reinforced that. I think she was just angry, wants to go lash out. And then we end up going over and seeing Arya meeting Brienne of Tarth again. And they have an awesome little like training fight sequence. And Arya basically shows her that she is not someone to mess with. Like she can kill you if she wanted to. She could probably take out Brienne of Tarth. Maybe. I mean, Brienne was holding back. You could tell near the end where she kicked her in the chest that she was starting to let that get away from her. So she wasn't fighting at like trying to kill her. It was more of sparring. But Arya was showing her that, I'm not easy to take down. And Sansa is seeing it And at first she's like, oh look, she's meeting Brienne again, and then they start fighting, and you can just see her face drain. Like, oh my god, is her list for real? Like, where did she learn this stuff? And when it was over, Brianna's like, where did you learn to fight like that? Who taught you? She's like, no one. She didn't lie. It was no one. It's true. Then we go back to John and Davos coming out of Dragonstone, and I like their relationship. They've got a very relaxed, kind of almost brotherly, back and forth kind of relationship. It's very nonchalant, very casual, relaxed. And they kind of joke with each other. At least Davos likes to joke with John. John tends to be super serious. But they end up meeting Missandei, and she asks Jon Snow about his last name. She's like, isn't your father Ned Stark? Why isn't your name Stark? And they explain that he was a bastard. And she's kind of confused. She goes, well, we don't believe in marriage. There is no marriage, so there's no such thing as a bastard. And Davos is like, oh, that's liberating. And he looks at Jon. You wouldn't mind if I switch sides, would you? Like I said, I really like their back and forth. I like Davos's sense of humor. While they're talking, they see a boat arrive, and Jon Snow's like, isn't that a Greyjoy's boat? And they go down there, and Theon Greyjoy comes up on the beach and sees Jon, and Jon basically grabs a hold of him, probably wanting to kill him, and says, the only reason you're alive is because of what you did for Sansa. So he's probably feeling really lucky right now. And Theon tells Jon that he's there to get the Queen's support. And Jon's like, the Queen is gone. And then they cut straight to Jaime and Bronn. And I was like, oh, shit's about to go down. I'm like, I was getting all excited. Bronn and Jaime are talking. And then Bronn's like, don't you hear that? And you start to hear the rumble of horses of the Dothraki coming up, and you hear spikes and shields, spikes and shields, and I'm like, yeah! I felt like the little girl from Despicable Me when she talks about unicorns. She's like, was it fluffy? It's the most fluffy thing I've ever seen. That's me with dragons. They're getting ready and lining up all the soldiers, and you can hear the Dothraki like screaming with the horses, and you don't see anything yet, just the hill. And then they start to come over the hill, and there's so many of them. And then you hear the dragon roar, and Jaime is like, oh, what? This dragon comes right up over the hill. Oh my gosh, it was glorious. I loved that scene. Loved it. Daenerys is riding the dragon, and she means business. And I was really jealous because I want to ride the dragon. And one of the things I like about the CG of the dragon that they do is when she's riding on top of him, you know, the scales and stuff are not like super rigid. Like they move around in the wind and things like that, like a actual skin kind of thing. I really like that little touch. I think it's awesome. But they start coming down and then just does a fire. Dragon does fire right through the line so that the Dothraki can go through the soldiers' line. And all through the battle, every time the dragon was like burning people alive, you know, sometimes they would just pretty much turn to ash and get blown away. And then we had this badass sequence with Bronn where Jaime tells him to go get the scorpion. He's like, you do it. He's like, I can't fire it with one hand. Bronn's like, oh, bastard. And he goes to get the scorpion, and they have this awesome one shot, one take kind of scene. It's all done in one sequence where he's killing people coming over on fire. He's pulling the sword out of the guy. He cuts the horse, and it's all one edit. It looks awesome. And I really love those kind of sequences, and they pulled it off beautifully. So I really love that shot. Braun finally gets to the Scorpion, and it's like underneath the little rooftop thing, like a wagon. And the Dothraki opens the front of it, and he's holding on to and just launches it, just sticks the guy right against the wall. It's like, eesh. I think it's pretty powerful. And he pulls the roof down to expose it, puts in another arrow, and he's going after the dragon. Now, when we saw the other episode, I think it was episode 2, where Cersei is shown the scorpion, and she shoots it, and it goes through the skull of the dragon. And what I said during that episode was, yeah, it can go through an old dried up skull, but can it pierce the hide? Can it pierce the dragon scales? Well, I guess it can, because Braun shot at him, missed once, shot again, and the dragon was screaming. I thought it was going to go in his mouth. That was my initial thought. I was like, oh no, because that would be a soft spot. If the dragon is screaming, it'd go right into his mouth, hit the brain, kill the dragon. But no, it went right past and into the dragon's shoulder. So I guess it can go through the dragon scale. Or maybe this is a very thin part of the dragon scale. Like if it tried to do it on the plates of the stomach or on the back, it would not go through. I don't know. But he ended up getting the dragon right here. And my inside screamed, no, no, dragon, no. Now, I read later on that the actor has been getting a lot of hate. Like, people don't like him anymore. He said, my mailman won't talk to me. I'm like, come on, people. He's an actor in a TV show. He didn't actually shoot the dragon. And it's not his fault. If anything, go get mad at the writers. It was an awesome sequence, though. Now, I assume since they showed that the scorpion can pierce the dragon's hide, the dragon skin, that's going to come into play in the future. That is going to be told, that's going to get word back to Cersei, and she's going to have all of those scorpions like built in mass. So they're going to have a lot of them. My thinking is they're going to have a lot of them when they end up going to battle with Daenerys on a large scale, that she's just going to have rows of these scorpions that she can launch like archers. Daenerys and the dragon land, and they have this cool kind of fly-in moment over the lake when the water is all fluffy up and that kind of stuff. I like the visual of that. It looked awesome. But they ended up landing, and Daenerys is trying to pull the scorpion spear out of her dragon, and Jaime sees her and starts to charge on his horse and grabs a spear. And Tyrion is watching the whole thing, and he's like, don't do it. So fucking stupid. You're so stupid. Don't do it. Don't do it. And right before he gets there, the dragon turns around and blows the fire, and then somebody jumps through and pushes him off the horse, and Jaime kind of sinks down into the lake. Who was the guy that saved him? Now, was it the young guy earlier on that hadn't been in war except for a previous battle, and they had that little quick quip back and forth where he's like, I didn't think it would smell like that. And Bronn's like, men shit their pants when they die. Didn't they tell you that? He's like, I learned that when I was 5. Was it him? Was it that young guy that jumped through? Because it went so fast I couldn't tell who it was. And I wonder if that's going to come into play later on. I don't think Jaime's dead. I mean, they showed him just kind of sinking down. He's got a metal hand and he's got all that armor on. Someone's either got to pull him up or he's got to lose all of that to be able to get out of the lake. But I don't think he's going to die. And then that's where we ended. It just faded out from there. And I was like, no, I need more. No. I think every episode I'm probably going to feel that way. I did in episode 3 as well. So, awesome episode. I felt like I needed a cigarette after watching that battle sequence and the dragon just... And what I really liked about that the dragon fire is that they used practical effects. Like they actually blew up all that stuff on camera in real life. It's not CG. And then they just CG'd the dragon with the fire coming down to the actual practical explosions. And it was seamless. It looked great. And that's what I love about some of these great filmmakers for Game of Thrones, the directors and the production guys that they have, is they understand that practical looks better than CG. And you only use CG when you have to. And so the practical explosions looked awesome, amazing, and then you just CG the dragon above it. And it looks great. If you CG'd the whole thing, it would look fake and kind of like, not that great. But the way they did it was awesome. But what did you guys think? What did you think of episode 4? What do you think's going to happen in episode 5? Comment below and let me know your thoughts on this. If you want to get into a discussion, we've got a Discord server and we have a Game of Thrones room over there. Not a lot of people on the Discord server because it's still small, but we're trying to get more people in there. So go over and check it out and say hello. We've got, I think, 2 people in there, me and this other guy and a third one maybe. But we could use more, so get on over there. If you're on VidMe, upvote this, give me a follow and share it around. If you're on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. And I will see you on the next video.